Before I wake, I pray to the Lord, my soul to take. For goodness sake, before I sleep, I pray to the Lord, my soul to keep. And if I should die, before I wake, I pray to the Lord, my soul to take. For goodness sake.
All right, this is a special presentation. I have a special guest today. Her name is Bridget Rose, and we are going to commemorate and honor the memory of a dear relative to us both, my cousin, Bashan Rose. He was taken away from us on December 26, 2008, violently in Roselle, New Jersey. Bridget pretty much co-parented Bashan, and this is a very special time for us to remember him, as his birthday passed on April 25th. I would really like for Bridget to tell us a little bit about herself and why this young man was and is so special to her. So welcome, Bridget.
Hi, how you doing, Cuddy?
I am doing wonderful. I hope you are.
I'm blessed. I'm truly, truly blessed.
So tell us just a little bit about yourself and why this time is so important to you.
Well, as my cousin said, my name is Bridget. I have not been fortunate to bear children of my own, but I was fortunate to be able to be a aunt with some privileges of parenting him. Single, I'm a transit driver. I relocated from Jersey first to Delaware, and then from Delaware to Maryland, and things is great. And that's a little bit about me.
Good deal. I had the privilege, I guess, to be a part of your life. You've been a part of my life and a part of seeing Bashan grow up. I like to say that you were involved with co-parenting.
Yes.
As you mentioned, being an auntie, but you played a significant role in his early life. And I think you should be recognized for that, because the grief that comes with the loss would probably be the same for you that it would for his biological mother. I think that having you present to be able to share the emotions, the healing, and ideas and ways that could help strengthen other people going through these or having experienced the same situation where you lose a young person through violence. So I want to ask you, what did Bashan mean to you as an aunt and as a woman?
Wow, Bashan played so many different parts in my life. Growing up, it was just, me, and didn't really have them responsibilities because I didn't have any children or anything. But when my brother announced that he was going to be a father, it was an amazing day for me. When my brother and I were younger, we had a little brother, and he had passed away. And my brother and I always would say that whoever had a child first, and if it was a boy, we would name our child after our brother. And unfortunately, my brother was able to have the first child, and that was his son. And our brother's name was Bashan, and my brother named his child Bashan. Only difference was that my nephew had a middle name, which is Emil, and my brother didn't have a middle name. And my brother was born in April, and so was Bashan born in April. So there had been a lot of significance with him. So being told that I was going to be an aunt, I just, I was very, very happy. And I still was struggling with my own life at the time when my nephew was conceived, and doing some of that transition of me, going through different things in my life. Bashan literally saved my life because I had to change some of the things that I was doing if I needed to be active in his life. So with that, I used him as the vocal point of me making better choices for myself. So Bashan literally saved my life.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. I know a lot of this had to take some like deep introspection. You know, you
Yeah,
find different points in your life where you can acknowledge that you have your own struggles, your own challenges, the your own demons that you have to struggle with. And I think that having someone to motivate you and move you forward through those times is essential. Would you say that his life, even though it ended early, would you say that his life still is a catalyst to move you forward today?
absolutely. I again, as I said, Bashan again was named after our brother. Bashan was born on his grandmother, his mother's birthday. Um, so he had a lot of points in his life that was meaningful to a lot of us. Um, and again, he really gave me strength because I was told by one of my mentors when helping to raise my nephew to always do what was in the best interest of him. Never put my personal thoughts in it, but do what would be right for him. So that helped me change the way I thought about certain things, because at the end, I needed to make sure that whatever decision I made, it would be a good one for him. So that's how my way of thinking started changing, because my decision making wasn't just about Bridget anymore. And I have to, say, because at some point, his mom's had some shortcomings, and so did my brother. And that's how I became so involved in some of the decision makings for him at a young age. My brother had went away, and as a sister, my mother raised us that we were all we had. So with that being said, my brother needed me, and I had to step up, step up in a way where my nephew didn't have to feel shorted, even though his dad wasn't there, you know. So that was another thing for me, making sure that Bashan knew that on his father's side of the family that he was still loved, even though the decisions that my brother was placed with allowed him to be absent from his life. It didn't mean that we didn't love him as a family. So that helped me to help myself and my immediate family. So that was a part where Bashan again helped so much.
Mm. Now you talked a lot about family. It feels funny talking to you like this because it's almost like I don't know stuff. But from this whole experience, and you maybe being aware of other people going through the same circumstances, do you feel like there's a stigma that when a young person, a young black male, to be specific, dies through like street violence, do you feel that people outside of our community tend to look at the situation, or outside the situation tend to look at it like, well, this is what happened when you don't have, family, or you don't have close people? Because you and I both know that Bashan had a nucleus, a very tight structure around him. So
Absolutely.
do you
I
feel
think, one, Bashan had you would have thought my nephew had millions stashed away. He had an inherit somewhere, and he had millions because both sides of the families struggled with feeling that they could do it better, and they wanted this, and we pulled and we tugged, and it was all before Bashan. Like, and it caused a lot of havoc on each side. Where he was truly loved. Bashan was loved by both sides of his family, especially with him being the only child. And he had a lot of cousins, especially on his mom's side, and a lot of cousins on his dad's side too. So Bashan flourished with a lot of love, a lot of support on both sides of the family. And he also wanted to be out there on his own and do some things that we didn't agree with, but I also know that sometimes we have to allow them to step in their own foot and be able to make some choices. And even if they're not good, we should be able to go back and revisit and explain why we thought that you shouldn't have done these things, because this is the end result. Unfortunately, in Bashan's situation, he didn't get to come back and say, wow, auntie, I should have listened to you, or dad, or mom, or whoever. I shouldn't have went to the left, right? And that's the difference with the children today. They don't really have that option. As I made a lot of bad decisions, and so did his father, and so did his mother. But we're still here, and we still get to share with people the decisions that we made and how we have been able to overcome some of the bad decisions that we made. Unfortunately, again, my nephew didn't get that opportunity, and it wasn't because Bashan wasn't loved. It wasn't because he was neglected in any form or fashion. He was very much loved, and not just by family, by extended family, by friends and associates, because he had that personality where, whenever you seen him, he was smiling, he was joking, and he was he was a good kid. You know what I'm saying? He was a very good kid. And I know that I know that he probably done some things that I don't know about, but like I tell anybody, 90%, I can believe that he didn't do things, and maybe the other 10 he probably did. But I'll give it 90 because I stayed open with certain things in case somebody wanted to bring something to me that I wasn't aware of. So I wouldn't have been like, oh my God, not my nephew. I left it open. So if it was there, I had to process it and be like, okay, maybe he did do that. Unfortunately, if I'd have known, I probably would have checked his tail. You know what I'm saying? But that case didn't happen. Bashan was good in school. He had a favorite teacher. Her name was Miss Davis, and she put a lot of interest in him, and always had good grades. I used to sit in on his classroom and go to trips with him. So a lot of these things, and he was privy to traveling. It wasn't like he was just a product of his environment. Like, it wasn't like he wasn't introduced to different things in his life. Played sports. There was a little something. He really wasn't playing sport, but he tried football, but he tried things. It wasn't like he didn't, test the waters. He tested waters on different things, but school was always a given. He graduated high school, he attempted college. He did these things, but sometimes, no matter how much we say or do, children still have to go out and figure things out on their own.
So with that said, I'm gonna ask you two emotions, which often, guilt and anger. Did you process any emotions of guilt, and how did you deal with that, if you did?
Well, I don't really, for me, guilt, not really. Probably like in the beginning when it first happened, it was like, if I knew he was over there, maybe I would have went, right? But then after that, that was a short-lived, because I just knew that if it was meant for me to have been there to make something happen differently, it would have happened, right? So I didn't stay into the guilt thing too long. And what was the other question?
The other emotion, anger, which quite naturally, I'm sure you went through a period of anger. And if you did, how did you come out of that?
I was angry, very, very, very angry. And I'm still angry. I'm still 14 years later, I'm very angry. I'm angry because I'm not going to say it should not have happened. I wish it didn't have to happen. I wish I didn't have to experience this. I wish his mother didn't have to experience this. I wish his father didn't have to experience this. And most importantly, I'm angry because he left a child behind that did not get the full effect of who her father was. You know, his daughter, her name is Jordan, and she has to live through us on what we say to her about her dad. So I'm very angry about that. I'm angry about my mother, my mom's privilege of being a grandmother, and she played that role very well with him, was taken away. You know, so I'm angry all the time, but I just know I have to. My nephew wouldn't want me to be angry, right? So I use him again, just as I used him to get where I'm at. I continue to use him because he's always been that vocal point in my life, right? So I always go back to what would my nephew, where would he want me to be at right now? What would he think about me being so angry or having resentment or all of these type of things? I know that's not what he would want from me, right? So I put aside some of that anger and I'm like, okay, just for the day, I'm gonna let it go. But it comes, but it comes in stages. It's not like I'm angry all the time. Maybe when his daughter's birthday come, or maybe, you know, when his birthday come, or when my mom's, you know, getting to a point where she, you know, she start talking about her grandson. And I think I'm more angry for my brother. It angers me because sometimes men don't get acknowledged enough in situations like this. And I believe that my brother was cheated out of the parenting part of his son's life. That angers me. That angers me, even thinking about where it was questioned. Your father probably don't love you because he made some bad choices. You understand? And that bothers me because my brother was the happiest person I know when he found out he was a father, going to be a father. And my brother tried his best to do what he needed to do as a man for his family, right? And that being, it took him away from his family, right? Because he was trying to make choices to keep us whole, right? And that's why it was so important for me to do my part, because I knew he just sacrificed his freedom to keep us whole, right? So when it comes down to his son, now I got to do what I need to do to hold this together, because he already made one sacrifice, right? So now I have to do what I need to do, so where my nephew knows that even though your father may not be here, does not mean that your dad doesn't love you. He just made some bad choices and it took him away, but he loves you, and it's not your fault that he made some of these decisions, but we still got to make sure that you're okay, you know? So that always angers me, that my brother was cheated, even when coming home and getting his life together to be a better dad, he still had to struggle with people trying to make his son feel like he didn't love him. And that wasn't the case, because he was born out of love. His mother and father loved each other. They had a long-term relationship. It wasn't a quickie. It wasn't a one-night stand. They had, you know, went to high school together. They went to junior proms, senior proms. They had a long-term relationship before their son was conceived. So they both love their child. And they both made some decisions that cost them during their parenting times, but it didn't make them bad parents, you know, and that hurts me too, because it was, you know, given to my nephew sometime that they parents, you know, questioned his parents, but they just both made bad decisions, but it didn't mean that they didn't love their child,
Yeah.
you know? So
You
yeah.
made you made a lot of points that really emphasize the importance of family. You know, um, we don't have the type of family and community structures that would help us to um, assist each other through our struggles and our challenges. So I appreciate you sharing how these dynamics played between all the different people that were involved in Bashan's life. That's very valuable. And it's something that I think if we could duplicate, then maybe we would have a chance to save some more lives. So how has this experience helped you to help other people outside of your family?
Like, you know, one thing I never really talk about this because it never really affected me, but people tend to say to me, you don't have children, so you don't know, right? I may have not bear children, but a part of being a parent is nurturing, right?
Great
It's
point.
also about making good choices, right, for your children and doing what's in the best interest of the child. And I've been able to do that, and I didn't breed a child, right? Because it's in my DNA. Okay. And I haven't just done it with my nephew. I've done it with a lot of relatives, a lot of my younger cousins. I've been able to show up, and I've been able to do what was in the best interest of them. And a lot of times they didn't understand it, you know, and I was consistent. That was another thing. That's the number one thing, consistency. You know, children, they want to see, are you really there? Are you really going to show up? You know what I'm saying? So, and that was the part with Bashan. I always showed up, no matter what the circumstances was. See, I didn't miss anything in Bashan's life. You know, I showed up for every occasion. And some occasions I had to fight just to be a part of it, but I still showed up. You know, I've been told I can't show up. I can't be here. My mother can't be here. It's times that, you know, I've literally had to put the big girl pants on and knock some doors down because you're not going to keep me from my nephew. You know, his last name is Rose. He's a part of my family. This is this DNA, and you can't tell him this story on this side of his family. You can't tell that story. You can't give him what he needs from the Rose aspect. Good, bad, or indifferent. It's our job because that's the name that he held. And on his mother's side, that's what y'all supposed to do. But you don't get to relinquish our family and who we are to him. So it allowed me to stand strong on that, and not just to him, but whoever kid come in my life. You know, I've known that I've made bad choices, and I've been fortunate that I've had a lot of great role models and a lot of people that didn't let my exterior push them away. They knew some of that was just a self what's the word I'm looking for? To keep people away from you. What's the word I'm looking for?
Like a self-defense mechanism.
Yes, mechanism. So a lot of them, they were able to like, oh, okay, whatever. We know you're not as tough as you know you want people to think you are. So that kind of helped me because that meant they didn't give up on me, right? So that's what it was. Where everybody else used it to make it to justify why they didn't want to help me. Oh, she's this, but these people didn't allow that to happen. They still came in, even hearing all of these stories about me that would have made them want to stay away from me. They didn't allow it, right? So with that being said, I felt I had to do the same thing for other children that was in the same position that I was, that was given this persona of something told about that person, and that's not really who they are, right? Because a lot of times, that's even today, they got out here, all these kids is bad, you can't talk to them. That's just easy for people to say, I don't want to mess with them.
Yeah, no. Well, one thing I noticed that you have done over the years is you've done like some nonprofit work. You talked to some politicians about violence and how these incidents impact the family. You've done some community work with trying to help other people heal. What have been some of the I don't want to say the challenges, but do you feel like you've had any challenges trying to help other people understand and pay attention to how this impacts everybody? Has there been any challenges at all?
Yes, and the biggest challenge is we don't want to take accountability, right? When we know our kids is out there doing things wrong, we still want to, it's the police fault, it's this one's fault, but we don't want to take accountability to why some of these things transpire, right? So for me, with Bashan, and I knew my nephew had his hand in the cookie jar, in the gang thing. And it wasn't like there wasn't never a conversation of that's not a place that you need to be at, right? That's not for you. But I couldn't, that was a journey he had to walk in, right? But I still had to be able to talk to him about it, and however he felt about it, I still had to be able to accept it because that was his walk. That was his. So again, we have a lot of parents out here that's in denial of their children's behaviors and different things like that. So that's what makes the process of grieving and understanding why their kids is out there. You got to be able to accept what role you play. You got to also accept that doesn't make you a bad parent, a bad aunt, a bad relative because a child chose to go to the left, right? That doesn't mean that, but we be looking at ourselves so much, but we're not paying attention to the kid because we worrying about how people are going to perceive us. Because if I'm the mother, if I'm the aunt, it's supposed to start with me. So if I say, yes, I knew, then that means I'm a bad aunt or I'm a bad dad or I'm a bad mother. No, that doesn't mean that you're a bad parent or guardian. That means that we have to include other people to help us with something where we're not maybe good at doing, right? So you got to keep moving. So when my nephew went through certain things, I didn't just look for myself. I asked other people for help because I knew that he was around other people. So I made other people be accountable just as well. Because if you're going to have my nephew around you and you know he's doing something wrong and you know that's not something that we want for him, then that means I need you to be conscious of how you deal with it.
Yeah.
You know?
We're going to wrap up here in a minute. Time's running short. So I want you to talk about the process of healing so that someone can take something away from your experience and what it took for you to arrive where you are today. So I know you can never place a time constraint on, like, oh, well, it's been a year or two, you should be over it now. So just talk about the process and the journey of healing for you and how other people can use the steps that you took for your own life to move forward.
One, accountability. Own the situation. Don't make excuses for the individual. If they wrong, they wrong. If they were right, they right. Because if you keep trying to mask the situation, you stopping your progress of healing. So whatever part my nephew may have played and be in the wrong place, wrong time, put his hand in a cookie jar, own it. But that doesn't supposed to stop us from loving the individual, right? I use Bashan in everything that I do. Every decision when I want to go to the left, nephew wouldn't want that. And I also believe that my nephew's life was sacrificed so I could have a better life. Because if my nephew had not been murdered, I would have never relocated. I never would have been able to be a homeowner, right? because these things only happen because of what happened to him. So I needed to relocate and get that pressure off of where we were from, right? Because people expect you to carry yourself a certain way and do certain things. But once I removed myself, nobody knew about the death or the tragedy of my nephew but me. So I didn't have no expectations, and I didn't have to be no way. If I felt like I wanted to break down and cry, I cried, and I didn't have to tell anybody why. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we have to have a connection with a higher power that we know of, because he'll move us and he'll shift us. But if you're not connected with anyone, you will never understand what's going on. You know, so again, I think if when we lose people in these violent crimes, we have to pass the baton. We have to help other people. You know, we have to have, because when you say a Black boy was murdered, he was connected through gang related, they try to downplay us, right? We can't allow that to happen because they're still a human being. They still were loved. So we still have to support one another no matter what the stigma or what society may want us to think. We still have to support that child, that family person, because they're somebody's loved one. That was my nephew's loved one. I don't care if you do say that he was a part of a gang. He wasn't born into a gang. That was something that he did along the way. So that doesn't equate all of the good qualities and all the family that put into him before he made that one decision that changed his life. So, you know, I think that we just need to take accountability and not be so harsh because a kid may have made a decision that society make us look bad, try to make us look bad. You're not bad. That was a decision, but we still have to keep moving on. And you honor that person. If you look in my room now, he's up on the wall, you look in front of my house. I got things outside. That's what keeps me. Because when we leave, that's all we have is memories. Absolutely. So we keep them alive that way. You know, so he helps me make good decisions.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, we know there's all kind of social pressures that, you know, take our young people's minds and, you know, move them in ways that are going to be detrimental to themselves and to other people. But I really appreciate you sharing, you know, the way that these different social implications may affect people in the way that they think. I think that's very valuable. You said one strong word, accountability. If it takes, you know, accountability for you to move forward and to get through and heal, then, you know, if it can work for you, I'm sure it could work for anybody. So
absolutely.
I just want to thank you. I say I love you so much.
Mm-hmm.
This was it was good for me, and I think that this is a part of that healing process, and
absolutely.
that we take together. I'm glad that you were open to it, and I'm sure that, you know, when friends and family see this, they're gonna smile and they're gonna be moved, and hopefully, you know, we'll continue to have these dialogues that will help to prevent, you know, possibly, you know, that other young person from experiencing such a tragedy. So I want to end on a happy note and just say it was good to talk with you in this manner.
Absolutely. And I appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's like, and see, this is another process of that healing, right? It's a healing process, and I'm always gonna need, and it's 14 years later, and I'm still, you know, still trying to heal. Like, it's always gonna be like this. So you gotta find outlets to help you instead of being bitter and angry, right? Because it's not gonna bring him back, right? So you know, and the best part about it is that he left a child. So I still have a privilege of being an aunt, and not just a aunt. I am a great aunt, right? So whatever I was unable to do for Bashan, I'm now able to do for his daughter. Yeah. But it will be in a different status because what I had to go through for him was what was needed for him. Mm-hmm. Now what I do for Jordan is what I'm going to need to do for her. So each dynamic is going to be different, but I still get to be a role model for her.
Absolutely.
So I still have to make good decisions.
Well, I appreciate you being involved, and I'm sure young Jordan is going to benefit from all of this. So we got to wrap up. Thank you again. I appreciate you and your journey, and I love you so much.
I love you more always. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.